Welcome to the nation. I am John. Thank you very much for being here. So, it's no surprise that on this channel for a very long time we have predicted chaos. I say we because, hey, this has always been our channel. I've talked about coming chaos, especially in November, and many of the community members here have been talking about the same thing. November, obviously, because of the election. And as I've said in the past, there's really no good outcome. A lot of people are cheering for Trump. I totally get it. They think Trump is going to be able to take the United States, put it back on track. Personally, I think he'll be able to take the United States, point it back into the right direction. But when I say chaos, I'm talking about societal chaos here at home. I'm talking about people that feel like they didn't get their way one way or the other, okay? And so I'm doing this video. It's going to be a short one, no intro or anything like that. Hopefully it's recording. Who knows anymore, right, son? Um, I think that the chaos is going to be worse and it's going to be more widespread than I'd originally thought. You know what I mean? Toward the end of last year, when people were talking about food shortages here in the United States that didn't really exist, or they were talking about cell phone towers turning people into zombies and airplanes moving around. I was over here saying there's going to be chaos next year, November 2024. Y'all better batten down the hatches. So hopefully, y'all are listening today because I'm now saying it's going to be worse than I initially thought. And I think it's going to come a lot sooner than November, if I'm being honest. And I want to explain that in this video today. So, we are a house divided. As a matter of fact, I may call the video that, something like that. The United States, is a house divided. I don't think that's breaking news for anybody, but it still needs to be said because people may not understand that, as y'all know, a house divided cannot stand, or it will not stand for very long anyway. So, if we go back to 2020, because I said, we're divided, but I think it goes beyond. We're a different country than we were in 2020. I think this goes way beyond liberals versus conservatives in 2020. Okay. So going back to the last presidential election, only 60% of eligible Americans, people that could vote or could you register to vote, actually voted. And I can remember back then they were saying, oh my God, this is record breaking. We haven't seen voter turnout like this in decades. And of course, a lot had to do with Donald Trump, your pro Trump crowd, and your never Trumpers and your liberals and stuff like this. So it was a huge turnout by comparison. But when you really get out and you look at that, that leaves 40% of the United States of Americans. Statistically, I'm not picking on 20 somethings. But statistically, your seniors are the most likely to vote and the most likely to care about where the country is headed. And your 20 somethings, like 18 to 25, 18 to 26, are the least likely to care. So we have 40% of Americans who could care less. They could care, and 40% of the entire United States of America. To put this into perspective, they don't care for a communist country, a democracy, a constitutional republic. You see this argument back and forth all the time on social media. Communism's great. Oh, it's a democracy. No, we're actually a constitutional republic. Back and forth. And I think what people on social media don't understand, that's only 60% of the country that actually cares about that discourse and those conversations on social media. This 40%, they're just talking around you. They don't care one way or the other. And so when I look at the United States and how we are divided, I see four big groups. And this is the first problem. Because when I originally, last year, when I was predicting chaos this November, I was thinking of two groups, right? Your pro-Trump conservatives and your lunatic liberals, as I like to call them. I know y'all got pet names for them or whatever the case may be, but I was thinking of two groups, right? Now I'm looking at this and I'm seeing four groups. So again, first is the we just don't care group. And that's 40% of the United States of America. And I see that group is growing. It's going to continue to grow. I don't believe, this is my personal opinion, but I don't believe your average 20-year-old who could care less about voting, could care less what kind of social structure or governmental structure we have. They could care less about the Constitution. I just don't see them 20 years down the road being heavily involved in politics. I just don't. I think these people, large part of them, are just not going to care ever. They care about what they're doing this upcoming Friday night. Your second group, of course, is conservatives, right? People that want conservative values. They tend to vote Republican or Libertarian, whatever the case may be. Your third group, the pro-Biden liberals. This is where it starts to get a little bit hairy, okay? The pro-Biden liberals, because we're starting to see a split in the Democratic Party. And that may sound great on the surface, but I don't know that it is, especially when it comes to chaos. So there are still a lot of Democrats who are riding with Biden. A lot of influential people. Now, of course, some people are starting to turn on Biden, but the ones that haven't, they're entrenching themselves. They're Biden until we go off a cliff, so to speak. They're not going to change their minds because they've seen the state that this man is in, and they're still riding with Biden. And of course, your fourth group that is now emerging is the anti-Biden liberals. We're seeing this all over the place. We're seeing political leaders, we're seeing actors, we're seeing musicians, we're seeing mega donors coming out and saying we're not giving Biden any more money. He needs to drop out. Of course, Biden has said, I'm not dropping out. He already has the delegates. He already won the Democratic primary. So it's going to be very, very hard to legally remove him from the ballot. And the issue there, for those that don't know, is the would-be candidates to replace him, the Kamala Harris, the Gavin Newsom, blah, 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 they all polled very, very poorly during the primaries. Liberals don't like these candidates. They don't want these candidates. You know what I mean? So Biden is still hanging in there, as we say in the South, like a hair on the biscuit, right? So I'll hear this a lot. And I know y'all have heard it too. The left is eating their own. And I get a chuckle out of it every time I hear it. But we've reached the point in the conversation now where the left eating their own may become a problem. I know, just look, let me explain. I know that's a heck of a statement. Let me explain, okay? Because it just leads to more tribalization here in the United States of America. It's not like people leaving Joe Biden's side are heading over to the conservative side and voting for Trump. I mean, there may be some, but a lot of them are just splitting with Biden, demanding a new left candidate, somebody that can beat Trump. I mean, for crying out loud, many of them are leaving Joe Biden's side because they don't believe he can defeat Trump. So they're not going to support Trump. They want somebody else. And the problem with each of those groups, especially the conservatives, the riding with Biden crowd, and those that are breaking away from Biden, is each group wants what they want. In November, Democrats, I think they're going to get there well before November, which we'll talk about in a second. But each group is sitting here saying conservatives are guilty of this too. Okay. If we don't win in November, that's my line in the sand. So you have conservatives in the United States saying if we don't win, it's basically over. We're going to have to come up with a plan B. You have Biden supporters who hear the calls for Biden to drop out, and they're starting to refer to it on social media as a coup d'etat. They think Biden is a viable candidate, and they think the deep state on the left is trying to remove Biden forcefully. And so they're going to react as though it were a coup if he drops out. And then you have a third group now, because we're tribalizing, folks. You have a third group that if Biden doesn't drop out, these people can act out. I don't think they'll have a problem doing this. Biden may be replaced very soon. I have a sneaking suspicion that I know they're trying to convince the man to drop out. I don't know if he's being stubborn. I don't know if his wife doesn't want to drop out. I don't know if his campaign's telling him to hang in there at this point. He could be replaced at any point in time, uh, moving forward very soon, actually, or not at all. We may get more press conferences with him yelling and saying, guess what? And then whispering like he's really creepy. I don't know why he does that. So, with all of this having been said, okay, I have a question, and I hope I'm going to ask y'all to do it. Obviously, you don't have to, you're grown ups, but I'm going to ask each and every person that is hearing this, that is watching this video, to answer this question. Drop a comment down below, okay? What are you doing right now to improve your situation during SHTF? Just one thing. One thing. What are you doing right now to improve your situation during SHTF? So, as I've told y'all many times, I try to drop down to an ideal weight, and I'm there. I'm also still in the process of going through the bug out bags. I'm trying to get better organized. Not that bugging out is the first or even the second plan, but I would like for the bags to be more organized. As a prepper, what are you doing to improve your situation? Because here's what I do not want to happen, folks, okay? I don't want y'all to be lulled to sleep. And it can happen in this community because we seem to have the same, y'all know this, the same 10 or 15 regurgitated topics over and over and over. And the issue with that is it's like the boy that cried wolf. At some point, it begins to lose the fear factor and you get lulled to sleep. So does that make sense? You kind of get numb to it and you start to block some of it out. And then when it actually happens, I don't want y'all to be lulled to sleep and get caught, okay? Because I don't want y'all to be on cruise control until November. Now, again, last year I was saying November it's going to pop off, November 2024. But now I'm telling you, I think it's going to pop off prior to November because there seems to be a civil war right now within the Democratic Party. And when I look at their voter base, these are the people that will turn out in mass. They will take to the streets. All right. Republicans, conservatives, they try and rent out bingo halls and organize potluck dinners and all this stuff and send out flyers. I don't really understand why conservatives think 50 years ago. That's one thing I will give liberals. Okay. They know how to turn people out, get them out in the streets and stuff like this. They may not be well read. They may not understand why they're out in the streets, right? But they're marching to that drum, literally. Don't put yourself on cruise control until November, because I think that we're going to see chaos kick off well before November. If it becomes apparent that Joe Biden is going to stay in, you're going to see half of the Democratic Party begin to lose its marbles. And if you see Joe Biden begin to be replaced, again, his voter base, his fans, they think it's a coup d'etat, and they're going to take to the streets. And then you have agents of evil, as I like to call them, the commies and stuff, and they will use any opening to create massive chaos in the streets, especially in your cities. And when the music stops, the chairs fill up quickly. Hopefully that reference hits home with some of y'all, okay? Once that music stops, I do not want you to find yourself without a chair, meaning I do not want you to be sitting there saying, man, I didn't think this was going to happen for 2 or 3 more months. Or, man, I've been out in the front yard for the past week with binoculars looking up in the air because I heard that bombers were flying overhead in a certain pattern and a scary pattern. You can do all that. Hey, again, you're an adult. Go do it. Go chase planes and get on that Q train if you want to. Make sure you're prepared first, though. Okay? Because when the chaos starts, you're not going to be able, especially in the cities, to make a run to the local grocery store. It's not going to be safe. Just understand that. And I hope you take today's message to heart.